It's Marie Mcinerney here from Croakey, and we're still at the VicServe conference on towards recovery about mental health issues. And I'm talking here with Harvey, who's from Tasmania, and it's been a session about the transition from participant to peer worker, really. Your story is very compelling. It's Marie Mcinerney here from Croakey, and can you tell us, still at the VicServe conference, your background both in the works on towards recovery and also your health about mental health issues and our story.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mark.
I'm talking here with Harvey, who's from
So for
Tasmania, and it's been a session about
career background is very varied.
The transition from
So I'm in my late 30s.
participant to peer worker.
It is now, and I originally started
Really, your story is
as a chef.
very compelling.
I then went on to train as
Can you tell us
a priest, and
your background both in the work
then I did
force and also your health?
politics, international relations. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mark. Degree. I did a summary. So for me, of about 5 or 6 years, me and Mike is working for a bank in Sydney. Career background is very varied, and then. So I'm in my late 30s. Basically, circumstances caused us cities now, and I originally started to move down to Tasmania as a chef, and I did a 3-year stint. I then went on to train at TasTAFE as a priest and learning to be a horticulturalist and qualifying, and then I did a politics, international relations. But when I look back on my degree, I did my personal life. Of about 5 or 6 years, I would say I'd had over 20 years working for a bank in Sydney, and then experience with mental illness in terms of basically circumstances caused us depression down to Tasmania and anxiety, and I did a 3-year stint. I always just thought I was a bit at TasTAFE, strange, a bit weird, but actually in 2011, learning to be a horticulturalist and qualifying, and haven't had a really serious mental breakdown, almost. But when I look back on, lost my personal life, wife and children over the experience, I would say I'd had over 20 years. But the hope that came out of that was that I experienced with mental illness in terms of really was depression, exposed to this concept and anxiety. Of recovery, and I always just thought I was a bit, no matter what you've been through, strange, a bit weird, but actually in 2011 I haven't had a really absolutely possible to serious mental breakdown, almost pick up your life, lost my wife, and have that full and meaningful life, the hopes and the wife and children over the experience, dreams that you once held on to, but the hope that came out of that was that so it really was. For me, my recovery, exposed to this concept, has been of recovery, and has been, fairly long. And no matter what you've been through, I'm still in recovery. I have the same chance, absolutely possible to. Challenges that anybody up your life else has. I'm still reminded every day and have that full and meaningful life, the hopes and the joy of my mental illness, dreams that I live it, but it's only part of me that you once held on to. It's not the whole of me. And so that's a little bit about for me, my recovery,
And so
has been.
The interesting thing now with that recovery is
has been, fairly long, and
it's led to a new
I'm still in recovery.
direction in work for you. So can you
I have the same
explain where you are
challenges that anybody
now? What is your job? What does it involve?
else has. I'm still reminded every day. So I'm bad at my mental illness. Basically employed as an intentional peer support worker. I live it, but it's only part of me. And it's not the whole of me. Basically, what I love about that title, so that's a little bit about there's 2 things. First, recovery.
And so
of all, is that I actually get to give a bit of
the interesting thing now with that recovery is
Harvey, and I think it's
led to a new direction.
something that I've probably craved all of my life, which sounds
direction in work for you. So can you
Very egotistical,
explain where you are
but actually I think it's really rewarding
now? What is your job? What does it involve?
to be able to give something. So I'm thinking of myself. The other basically employed as an intentional peer support worker.
Can I
Yeah,
go
okay. And
back into that and just say you made the point in the session
basically what I love about that title
that it's called
is two things. First,
intentional. What does
yeah,
intentional mean?
absolutely. Of all, is that I actually get to give a bit of Harvey. So the intentional is Harvey, and I think it's basically based on the Sherry Mead, something that I've probably craved all of my life, which sounds framework for very egotistic peer work, which is about that equal challenge. But actually, I think it's really rewarding between your wanting to be able to give yourself and the people that you work with. So it's something of myself. The other, not that Harvey is the part of the expert of mental illness, that Harvey knows
into that and just say you made the point in the session
knows all about every,
that it's called
all the other mental illnesses. It's actually about
intentional. What does intentional mean?
Absolutely. More focused on the intentional is recovery, and it's about saying Harvey's basically based on the Sherry Mead, still struggles with getting up. Framework for in the morning, and my person I might work with peer work, which is about that equal challenge. That you know what I really between your struggle to get up this morning, and so we work out strategies for yourself and the people that you work with. So it's together. Not that Harvey is so that it's not about me helping the expert of mental illness. That Harvey knows it's actually about us. It's all about every learning together, and about mapping all the other mental illnesses. It's actually about figuring out where our more focused on the recovery goes to now, and those steps and those strategies in recovery. And it's about saying Harvey's and learning it still struggles with getting up equally off the other person in the morning. And my person I might work with in terms of actually, you know what I really improving our lives, and just those small struggle to get up this morning. And so we work out strategies, incremental steps that are together up and take. So the intentional part of what I do, so that it's not about me helping, it's actually about us. Really, the very crux of learning together, and about mapping my role and figuring out where and how I actually approach the way that I work. Where it goes to now, and those steps and those strategies
and
learning.
Who do you work with then?
So I work for my fellowship equally off the other person, which is now in terms of actually becoming wellways. Improving our lives, and just those small, they are the incremental steps that are the only service that I've ever used in terms of and take. So the intentional part of what I do is recovery and now in employment.
And
very crux of
how many
my role
you work 3 days a week, but you work
how I actually approach the way that I work.
Other participants in their programs,
yes. Yep.
And who
I do.
Yeah. Who do you work with then?
So I work for my fellowship, which is now
the big
becoming wellways.
thing here is that the peer workforce is
they are
starting
the only service that I've ever used in terms
to develop with some strength in Victoria.
Yes.
But
my
you said in
recovery and now in employment.
And it's not how many close to that yet. You work 3 days a week, but you
No.
How hard is it, and what with other participants in their programs?
Yes.
What are the challenges to be a peer worker?
I do.
Yeah. One for yourself, and you. Talked a bit about the big care,
yes.
But two about how you think here is that the peer workforce is in a workplace starting and how that workplace responds to you. So what have you developed with some strength in Victoria?
Yes.
But what have you said in you observed?
Look, I think
Tasmania, it's not
one of the big
close to that yet.
Challenges for Tasmania is that we are a region. No.
How hard is it, and what are
regional place? You may have Launceston and Hobart.
What are the challenges to be a peer worker?
But you can't compare
one for yourself, and you
what happens in Sydney or in
talked a bit about
Melbourne to what happens
care.
Yes.
But two about how you feel
how you would work in Hobart or
in a workplace
or Launceston. We're really
and how that workplace responds to you. So what are you
basically big towns,
and what have you
probably shouldn't say that.
observed?
Look, I think as an outsider, but I think one of the big challenges for Tasmania is that we are a region. Now, I think so. There are some challenges in the regional place. You may have there. You may have Launceston. I think, as I mentioned in the presentation, I think that we do need, but you can't compare to look at what happens in Sydney or in actually what's happening in the region, Melbourne, to what happens of the big. How you would work in Hobart, bigger cities, the bigger states, or Launceston. We're really, in terms of basically big towns, and I probably sort of adopting some of those areas. Probably shouldn't say that, as an outsider, but I'm one of 4 paid mental health peer workers. Within this organisation. Now, I think so. There are some challenges. Of my fellowship, my ways, there. I think, as I mentioned in the presentation, I think that we do need, and there may be a couple of other positions we need to look around at actually what's happening in the region, but I'm not aware of them. And so really of the big, I think, we really are cities, the bigger states, we are on, at the moment at ground zero in terms of that, but probably sort of adopting some of those areas. It's really exciting for me, and the way I look at that is, actually to say, I'm one of 4 paid mental health peer work. We do have an organisation, Flourish, down in Tasmania within this organisation. They do an awesome organisation of my fellowship, my ways, and it's about integrating into them. And actually building those, and there may be a couple of other positions, relationships and that community together, around peer-to-peer, but I'm not aware of them. And so really work and actually learning off each other. And I think, we really, are on, at the moment at ground zero. We might have a long way to go, but I think it is about, but what other people. It's really exciting for me, and the way I look at that is what people are doing and incorporating some of that, as well as actually to say, we do have an organisation, Flourish, down in Tasmania our own way.
They talked today of
and they do an awesome job.
A couple of
and it's about integrating into the
things. One, tokenism, and also the sense of
and actually building those
isolation you have as a peer worker, because you
relationships and that community together.
There aren't
peer-to-peer
for many, and that question of value,
work, and actually learning off each other and
being valued. So, what's that experience been like for you, and what do you?
We might have a long way to go, but I think it is about what other people.
The lessons that you could give to organisations that
are doing and incorporating some of that, as well as finding
that really should have peer workers
in our own way.
They talked today of amongst their stuff, a couple of
yeah, absolutely.
Things. One, tokenism, and also the sense of
on the
isolation you have as a peer worker, because you
on the issue of tokenism.
There aren't
I really do think
many, and that question of value.
I think it is about time that organisations
being valued. So, what's that experience been like for you, and what do you?
Did actually
the lessons that you could give to organisations that
understand that despite
that really should have peer workers.
Some peer workers have qualifications
amongst their stuff.
Some peer workers don't have qualifications. Yeah, absolutely. But the qualification is the lived experience. So on the and on the issue of tokenism, so you can't. I really do lessen that down. I think it is about time that organisations just say, well, I'm not going to, I'm not going to pay them for their time, for example. I think we bring a very unique understand that despite unique skill, and contribute. Some peer workers have qualifications to the community space. Some peer workers don't have qualifications. I think all qualifications, but the qualification is the lived experience. So there is a responsibility on the workers, and you can't rely on the peer support workers to actually lessen that down. Continue to just say, well, I'm not going to, educate the people that we work around in terms of I'm not going to what it actually is that we pay them for their time, for example. I think we can bring to we bring a very unique their participants is unique skill. It's the participants of the organisation, and so that and contribute sort of ties back in to the community space. To one of the other areas of the challenge. I think also
It seems we're going to
so there is a responsibility on the worker.
get kicked out in a minute for a Bollywood dance.
Yes, sorry.
Can you
On the peer support workers to actually
say what was a magic moment? Has there been a magic moment at work,
continue to
either in the way that the workforce has
educate the people that we work around in terms of what it actually is that we,
or in the work that you do? What
we can bring to absolutely their participants, the organisation, and in the Launceston, the participants of the organisation, and so that's an office. They have sort of ties back in. I've been absolutely incredible in welcoming to one of the other areas of the challenge. These peer work.
It seems we're going to
Us peer workers.
get kicked out in a minute for a Bollywood dance.
Really do value the effort and
Can you say what was a magic moment? Has there been a magic moment at work,
and the contribution
either in the way that the workforce has
that we make, and that makes the transition so much easier.
or in the work that you do? What
In any professional role, there is obviously absolutely look at a time of transition. The organisation and in the Launceston. I think it's an office. They have been absolutely incredible in welcoming. The golden moment for me is at these peer work, us peer workers. They really hitting the ground running. Really do value the effort and I really had no idea exactly what this role that we make, and that makes the transition so entail for me. But I think for me, much easier. It is about any professional role. There is obviously, I'm equally valued to actually at a time of transition shape this role and to. I think shape the framework within the golden moment for me is at the ship down in Tasmania and in Launceston. Really hitting the ground running, particularly, of course, because each site has its own way of doing things. I really had no idea exactly. That's a fantastic thing. It's not what this role with one size fits all entail for me. But I think for me, and that just the great thing for me is it is about inspiring. I'm equally valued to actually bring and hope and in our participants this role and to believe shape the framework within that they can become what I have become within my and more fellowship down in Tasmania.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to have to dance off.
That's and in Launceston.
Thank you, Harvey.
Particularly, of course, because each site has its own way of doing things, and that's a fantastic thing. It's not a one size fits all, and that just the great thing for me is just about inspiring and hope and in our participants and believing that they can become what I have become and more.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to have to dance off.
That's okay.
Thank you, Harvey.